Okay, it's 12:35 now. We would like to start. Once again, I would like to welcome everybody to the 5th lecture in the founder series of the Kunle Hassan High Foundation Academy, KEFA. My name is Adeyemi Oyewumi. I work for the High Foundation Hospital Group, and it's a pleasure to be here to welcome you all again to yet another edition of our founder series. Today, we are focusing on the political economy of eye health in sub-Saharan Africa. And as usual, our guest speaker will be Dr. Adekunle Hassan. In a minute, we will introduce him and we'll get on to the call. But first, I'll just like to go through the agenda quickly so that we're all clear what we're expecting. And then also, as usual, share our house rules before I call on Dr. Harriman to introduce Dr. Hassan. The welcome is what I'm doing at the moment. And I will also share some of the house rules, following which the speaker will be introduced. And then we have the presentation from Dr. Hassan. Then we also have our interactive question and answer session between 1:30 and 1:50, allowing us to share comments and to take and for our speaker to take questions or clarifications as may be needed. And we're hoping that we can close by 1:55 or 2 o'clock. I look forward to another exciting session. In terms of our house rules, they're quite simple. 3 things. As much as possible, we encourage everyone to keep their videos off, just to limit distraction. Similarly, microphones also should be muted while not talking as much as possible. Also, we prefer that you use the chat box to type your comments and your questions, which we will take at the end of the presentation from Dr. Hassan. At this point, then I would like to call on Dr. Harriman, the director of the Kunle Hassan High Foundation Academy, to just do a brief introduction of Dr. Hassan, and then we can get on to today's business. Thank you very much. Dr. Harriman.
Yes, thank you very much, Yemi. Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, Dr. Hassan. Thank you all for joining today's lecture. I'll just give you a short talk about Dr. Hassan. He's the founder and chief medical director of the Eye Foundation Hospital Group. And through the Eye Foundation Group, he has created a robust and sustainable infrastructure to drive his vision to eliminate avoidable blindness in Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa. The group continues to set standards for quality eye care and public-private partnerships for eye care in Nigeria. Outside ophthalmology, Dr. Hassan has been a board member of the previous Diamond Bank, and he was a board member for 10 years. He was also the chairman, governance and personnel committee of Diamond Bank, and also a board member of the Audit and Risk Management Committee. Currently, he is the chairman of Health Partners Limited, Deseret International Hospitals Limited, Summit Healthcare Hospitals Limited. He's the executive chairman of the Leon Economic Development Foundation, which is a microfinance foundation. And he's presently the chairman of the board of management, Onobisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital in Ogun State, Nigeria. Today he's talking, he's previously given some lectures, 4 lectures which are available on YouTube. The first lecture was on the Eye Foundation Group, Nigeria as a case study. The second was meeting the challenges of a startup in ophthalmology practice. The third was on building a crisis-resistant culture in an economic institution amidst a disruptive VUCA environment, similar to what we have in Nigeria. The last lecture was on the role of core values in shaping employee behavior for organizational effectiveness. And today's lecture, as Yemi mentioned, is the political economy of eye health in sub-Saharan Africa. So we welcome you, Dr. Hassan. We welcome you, everyone, and we look forward to your lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harriman. for your kind words. And I'd like to thank everybody who are here to listen to this lecture and for us to share experience and to see how best we can help in propagating the future of eye care in Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa in the right direction. My topic today is to give us an insight into why most of the healthcare, especially high health, is crawling. That we are not achieving, we're not getting to the peak of our potentials. The resources are enormous. The problems are huge. They're there, but how effective are we as individual, as an organization, and collectively as an eye care provider tackling these problems? When we talk of politics, politics is a way of life. There's politics everywhere, not just in terms of government alone. So politics looks at governance and policies and the application of those policies in governing the people and providing benefits for the masses. When we look at the economic side of health generally, health, I think next to defense, health is where most of the advanced country funds are going into. And it's quite being very challenging also because it takes a huge sort of resources that there's always reengineering and modeling processes in order to deliver an effective health care. Despite that, there are gaps. So when we look at how politics can govern our processes, a delivery system, and also the impact, the economic impact is enormous. For example, when you look at a young person, maybe of age of 7 that is blind, or even children come by from prematurity, retinopathy of prematurity, we look at the years that patient has in front of him or her and the economic waste, not to talk of looking broadly at the whole nation and see the impact of people who are partially sighted, people who are blind, and what they can contribute to the economy. So generally, whatever policies we put in place, whatever policies or how we drive things generally, affects the economy. When I look at high health, there are different parts of high health. We have the preventive care, we have the curative care, we have the area of education, training, and research. And important within all of them is also succession plan, so that at least we can get things going. Also, all this costs a lot of money. Even if the resources were there, even if Bill Gates and Co decide to give us a $3 trillion a day to solve healthcare in sub-Saharan Africa, will they provide a solution? Not likely, because right from creating the network of preventive cares at the primary level, the secondary level, and the tertiary level, and also training those doctors and other eye care team that keep the standard expected of a top-notch eye care delivery system. So you can see that along the line, there are different levels which must maintain equilibrium for us to be able to get to where we want to be. When we look, let's look broadly at the stakeholders in eye care delivery in sub-Saharan Africa. We have the public institutions, which is controlled by the government. We have the non-governmental organizations. And then we have the private sector. All those three groups are the key players in healthcare delivery. Let's talk about the government. Excuse me. Many years ago in this Nigeria as a case study, there's a well-structured and relatively high level standard of healthcare delivery system. The hospital were well equipped, institution for training and service delivery was superb. The healthcare policy by the government was robust and well articulated and implemented. The medical profession was a toast of the societies then. And if we have followed that projected trajectory, Nigeria today would have been a center of world healthcare tourism and all the economic and intrinsic benefits that goes with that kind of institutional progress. For example, it was stated that the King of Saudi Arabia used to visit University College Hospital Ibadan for medical treatment. Those days, the University of Ibadan was linked with the London University, and when we look at our top professors, they've always been part of the success story. What happened? There's been a gradual decay all over the years. This is because the politics of the system gradually erode confidence. The government took over, the military, all over the sub-Saharan Africa. There were military coups in Ghana, Uganda, and gradually the standards start falling because there's a shift towards the military. And these military guys are not trained or seasoned to control such a huge economy and to be able to balance what is necessary to sustain a good healthcare system. I would say that. That's the government. So at the moment, what we have, governments are not interested anymore. You look at the percentage of our GP that is being put into healthcare is very small. The budget is dwindling, education is dwindling. All the parameters that are necessary for sustaining a good high health system is gradually being eroded. When this started, the NGOs came in. The NGOs are there to fill the gap. When they see the enormity of the problems, the burden of blindness and preventable blindness, right from primary level to the tertiary level, is a good chance for the NGOs to move in. They've been there, and you can see now most of our sub-Saharan African countries depend on NGOs. However, any NGO, international or local NGO, they have their own strategy. They have their own goals. They're using funds donated, and for them to continue to have this access to resources, they need win situation. So they have to focus their mind not on building alone. Some of them will build. We have to give support to capacity building, training, and that. But most of them are towards delivering care. And a lot of donations to institutions. A part of the continent that was dependent much on donors was East Africa. I had the opportunity to go to some of the best hospitals, and you see huge equipments that are donated, all line fallow, some of them just being used for a few months or a year, they break down, and there's no way the institution can sustain. Well, it goes in two ways. Those who are donating those equipments, they're getting tax relief. And you hardly see people donating brand new equipments. There are a lot of equipments that are obsolete or rebuilt that are getting out of use but still functioning. Some of these equipments are donated to high institutions in Sub-Saharan Africa. As we say up today in US, there are huge institutions that collect most of the used equipments, turn them around, service them, keep them in storage. And there's a huge business going on whereby these are being imported back into different parts of Sub-Saharan Africa. It's a goodwill, but behind that goodwill also is a lot of tax relief. So it's a business. And it's how we are very happy to receive those things. I've seen an institution in Nigeria that's about 10 years ago, they were donated FICO machine, the legacy FICO machine and all this. And we were asked to come and look at the machine. They're no more functional. They are new ones. And as the new machines are in place, the old ones consumable become more expensive. So when the institution uses those consumables, at the end of the day, and when it finishes, you cannot afford to get new ones. So we should be very cautious about that. And then I'm not against the NGOs. The NGOs have done a lot in training, capacity building. Unfortunately, most of the NGOs have to work with governments. And a lot of resources is put into the system in different Sub-Saharan African countries with a lot of resources, but it's passing through the government. And the government in most Sub-Saharan African countries are so corrupt or not, or they don't even have the impact to be able to achieve the goal, even set by the NGOs. Then let's come to the private sector. The private sector is emerging as a key driver in eye health and other healthcare in Sub-Saharan Africa. And this has been, I think, those who really study the investment models and how best to utilize resources are coming forward in terms of some of them are venture capitalists, some of them are good at providing what I call social enterprise funds that are long-term, low percentage interest rate in order to help private sectors that can focus on utilizing those resources to effectively provide eye care across the board, at least for the poor, for the middle class, and for the high level. So there are a lot of these funds available to help the private sectors. And at the last IFC Healthcare Forum in Miami, we can see that a lot of these investors were there, and there are good results. How investors have put money into different parts of healthcare. And the examples of eye care is how they've done a lot to turn things around to help the private sector to grow and to have enough resources to create a sort of social enterprise model like we have in our foundation to be able to improve the system. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're talking of over 200 million population, almost 200 million population. How can private organizations struggling to balance their books deliver this service effectively? So we can see a mixed grade of stakeholders who are competing in the market, who are trying to do their best to deliver the service. And the different mindsets. And at the end of the day, what do we get? Where are we now in Sub-Saharan Africa? If we do a situational analysis, the government, the NGO institutions, the solo private practice, the multi group practice, the public-private mixed practice, all sort of practices are there, but they are not at their optimal. They are underfunded. They are poorly equipped. There's poor practice management and very low capacity utilization of their resources. and there's bad competitive edge, and all this spell disaster, and we cannot raise our head above the water. The sources of just one organization is okay, but how beautiful it would have been if this can be cloned and repeated in a multiple. So all resources from those three key players, the government, the NGOs, and the private, put together in order to provide a more robust model for eye health delivery. It would be a win-win situation because the volume involved, economy of scale, will improve returns. And if returns are improved, then utilization of those resources, definitely things will turn around. So where do you want to be really? Where should we be in Sub-Saharan Africa? We should have a viable and sustainable private government NGO institutions collaborating. Collaboration is key to our success. If we do not work together and collaborate in all areas of training, preventive accuracy services, research, and working together to create a robust foundation on which those different services can start on and tap resources within, both vertical and horizontal. It will go a long way. But one of the key things that is preventing this is our ego. In Sub-Saharan Africa, we're too much individually driven. We prefer to be the shining star among us. It's just like a king and the paupers. And when we see things that are doing well, we want to copy it without even understanding the fundamentals of making it a success. At the end of the day, when we cannot, because we are not grounded or well prepared for what we want to do, we want to pull down those who are successful. So there's that pull down syndrome. We don't have that innate feelings of finding joy in supporting things that are good and learning from it so that we can all share the glory. This is very necessary. And when you look at areas where collaboration has provided results, from my experience of South Africa, in East Africa, the struggle. I remember the Kenya Society was formed after some of the Kenyans attended the Nigerian Ophthalmological Society, the LEACOs and the groups of the old ages. Today, due to collaboration, due to overcoming their initials and ego, they're not perfect. We created the East African, the COEXA, the College of East African South African Ophthalmologists. And they get enormous support and robust support from the royal colleges, even from the European Commission. They were able to access funds, and they were able to have robust college training programs and improve the standard of their practice. When we look into West Africa, we are so divided. We have the West African College, we have the Nigerian College, we have this, everybody doing the programs, multiple training, multiple courses. This not only provides strain on the residents and others, even those who are the professors and the teachers who are conducting those courses, but it stretches them thin. They are the same. Whereas they can maintain their identity, but they can collectively have the same program. Therefore, creating a standard and collaborating so that across the board in West Africa, we can have something similar to the African region. The South African region has been very successful, with the South African being the focal point. All the other areas around them are embracing the training program. So if you see the scattered level of progress, a scattered level of excellence in those of the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. When we started the African Ophthalmology Council, one of the main aim is how do we collaborate and get a sort of collegial recognition, working together, so that anybody trained in any of these regions can come to any of these colleges through a well-coordinated program and sit exams. Just as in UK, the Scottish, the Irish, and the English colleges, once you pass the primary one, you can go to other colleges to do your fellowship. It creates a sort of equilibrium, standard, and unity within the system that whichever of the college fellowship have, definitely you can practice anywhere. It's that sort of cohesion that improves the standard of education across the board. Not only that, it improves collaboration across the different sub-Saharan Africa, because you more or less train along the same standard. You share the same view, and it's then possible to have a well-grounded research base, which we all share, and have a broad-based research grant and a lot of data that will make a difference and put sub-Saharan Africa on the world map. This is a world of data. Data collection is key. Data collection gradually in IT is going to becoming the future oil, because it's necessary in order it's necessary for artificial intelligence and the economic impact that artificial intelligence will bring into healthcare and high care delivery. So we are lacking behind if we do not embrace this and see it holistically as part of our commitment to move things forward. There's need for that collaboration. There's need for that joint standard and goals, and there's need to overcome self and have a broader vision. Another area that we're not looking at is the training of the ophthalmologists. In sub-Saharan Africa, there's still about one ophthalmology to a million population or 1.5 million population. In India, it's probably to 150,000. In Western countries, it's getting to 25,000 or maximum 100, one ophthalmology 200,000. When we were trained in UK in the early 80s and mid 80s, it took 24 months practice in ophthalmology after passing your primary to get your fellowship. And then you start specializing, because the country needed more ophthalmologists. So there's a fast-track packed, well-groomed training. That creates opportunity for you to now go into subspecialties, whatever you want. Now in UK, it's taking 5 to 7 years to become a full ophthalmologist, because it includes your subspecialty training and everything. Why is that? Because they've got enough. The system is short, so you got to slow down the production, the number of ophthalmologists you produce in order to make them equilibrium. All the consultants will not die overnight, so they look at the system and create an elastic stretch of training program that builds you up. And within those 5 to 7 years you're in the system, by the time you finish, you are really a top-notch, high-level ophthalmologist. In our country here, we are still using an average of 5 to 6 years to be trained as an ophthalmologist. The West African College of Surgeons introduced the diplomas, which was phased out. Now we have the membership, but still taking a lot of time to train this guy. We ought to look at our need and condense the training into a period of maximum 3 to 4 years. Get this guy out so that they can move out of the cities where the professional moves to the outside of city to area and create new ground in order to provide services. When we've got to the minimum required, maybe 1 in 5,000, 1 in 250,000 ophthalmology per population, then we can redesign the program in such a way that it can now take time and introduce some area of more specialties that will interest those students or residents to stretch through. So we have to adapt our needs. We have to adapt our training program, our research program towards our needs in sub-Saharan Africa, instead of looking at the historical background of how the colleges in the Western world were able to get to where they are. We cannot start at where they are. We have to go back and restructure our training program towards achieving that goal. And it is when we achieve that goal that we can really be proud of ourselves. Now, there's some other things that I like to talk about, and that's a lot of things we don't look into deeply. We are perceived as a beggar nation, and that mindset is also getting to a structure in the system, in the universities, in the private sectors, in the government sectors. We go out there and beg, we want this, we cannot afford this, we cannot afford, can you give us this, can you give us that? When we do that, you cannot stand on equal platform with your colleagues. When institutions, NGOs and others support you and see you as somebody they have to give in order to, they can give in terms of resource, intellectual resources, they can give in support. But when everything depends on you being given, things are donated, there's no way you can sustain. Even if they donate, but you build a system that can build on that and make yourself self-sustainable, you'll be respected. When it comes to a situation where you're always asking and they're always giving, the mentality is that the giver will now have to justify that you are really down there all the time in order to search for resources from donors to keep you going. So when you look at the equation, we've subjected ourselves to a situation whereby we always beg for more. And once you beg for more, then they have to create programs that you have to go and you have to do. You've lost your own focus. You have to sustain their own vision. So it's like the Babika story of someone who's got talents and buries talents and believe that, and the other one utilize talents and another one use it more effectively. When the master comes, they are rewarded according to that talent. So those who have put in place structure to be able to get resources to help us will always like to keep us there, because the industry creates jobs for them. And the best they can do, they can even take the best of us. They see the capacity to help. But even when they pick the best among us to help to draw, to drive that program, we often see those people who are part of us, who are there to help us, we often see them as enemies. We tend to believe, to relate to them, to relate to those who have more or less invest in sending them. You don't see them as part of you that you should encourage, you should support, you should listen to them, but you believe to look somewhere else because a bishop has no recognition in his own country. So let's look at ourselves. Let's look at our mindset. Let's look at our culture. Let's see that we can unleash the potential that we have within us first. Let's lay the foundation and build our hope first. Let's put our differences aside and have a common. I always say that we don't have to be friends to work together, but we can work together with a vision, having a common goal, because everybody is important within the equation. The moment we let our ego be in our way, the less we achieve. So, when we look at all this, how can we overcome this inertia? How can we stop being a burden to those who are even prepared to help us? And how can we improve? Because we are blessed. We have, I mean, you put it in Africans, Nigerians, and in South Sahara, we are in the Western world. You hear of all the great achievements they have. Why is it that we cannot do that? Even if at home, our government is not supporting us, we have the intellectual capacity and access to people who can help us to turn things around in our own profession. Key to this solution, one is we have to believe in meritocracy. Always try and put a round peg in a round hole. Not because this guy is this guy is this, related to this or this, that. The guy is the head of the department, is all these things, a leader or this. We have to believe in meritocracy. Give the job to the best guy, irrespective of tribal race or anything. Once we have that, the right person in place, then we're on the right track. We have to be pragmatic and we have to be honest in whatever we do. So we need a transformational leadership. We need transformational leadership and a good leader to drive these sort of things. So in our colleges, in our institutions, if we can key into meritocracy and transformational leadership, we'll be on the right path. We need to have a paradigm shift in our mindset. We need to see ourselves as co-builders. We can be, I mean, the more we are, the merrier, and the more the competition. And competition is always good for the end users. When you know you have competitors, you are forced to refine your processes and to, be on your toes, that you have to be the best of yourself. And that has helped us in our own institution. So there should be a healthy rivalry. And there must be new business model that had values, a business model that take care of everything, a social enterprise that takes care of everybody within the system, the poor, fairly rich, and the distinguished, and can create a balance. If you understand the economics of social entrepreneurship model, then in a country in sub-Saharan Africa where the poor, as the bottom of the pyramid, is huge, the economy of scale there can create a sustainable program. That all you need is initial capital. If you invest $100,000 on equipment and all these things, it's the same staff, the same fixed cost. It will pay you more to do thousands of cataract surgery than just to do tens of cataract surgery, because it's the same fixed cost. So, and we have to embrace innovation in technology. The healthcare is changing so fast. Same thing with the high care. Technology are expensive. Therefore, there's a need for people to come together and use the same resources. That's what, it's not in eye care alone. In Lagos, yeah, you have about 4 or 5 MRI and CT scans. You go to east or west of England, they have about 2. It's utilized by a wider population. And the MRI is mobile. The key to area, people are booked, and utilization rate is high. The same thing. In Nigeria, you have OCT ranging from the first generation to the latest generation everywhere. Whereas people can pull together and really get to the latest level of technology. And when you do this, the financial institution will be prepared to back such organization that works in that sort of model. So the financial body is spread, and you can provide services, a better service to your people. And that's where the key factor of partnership is very important. We must be prepared. There's too much of suspicion. There's too much, and this because we all want to control our business as an extension of our pocket. If you're ready to run your business as a business, and everybody earn what they work for, that organization will grow. You'll be able to put a lot. You will build an institution. But if you continue to focus on yourself, then you build an individual, and your exit strategy is nothing, because once you collapse the institution, your practice will collapse. But if you build an institution, then you are leaving a legacy that even without you there, the institution will continue. So we got to have a reorientation using the strength of partnership. There are many models that will benefit everybody, and we don't have to wear ourselves out. And if we do that in eye health, we create a new eye health network model. I can see that evolving in Lagos, even in Kenya and other places outside. You now see institutions focusing on specific specialty. You have a new cancer center in VI. Look at Eurocare focusing on cardiac intervention, technologies, and all this. When groups started focusing on specific area of the eye, even eye care, we have groups focusing on vitreoretinal, groups focusing on subspecialties, and creating a good group. And we can see the impact in this collaboration during this COVID, that we started virtual meetings, that we have the African Retina Society, and there's the ROP, the pediatrics, and different subspecialty involved. You can see the impact of exchanging ideas virtually and providing services and sharing knowledge among these different subspecialty in the eye health group. This should be encouraged, because if we encourage this, it can metamorphose us into a good institution. I hope post-COVID, we continue to do that and translate that idea into creating a solid foundation for such a subspecialty specialty process. So let's focus on how we can build ourselves. Let's recognize a wider picture and opportunity from the scale of demand and use it to adapt and build a new business model. Let's use innovation, prioritizing collaboration and partnership, and embracing competition, so that there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel and invest in the culture of training. If we can do that, then those individuals that have the ego of just their own solo practice, they will discover that they own a job, and they build on individual with poor equity base and poor exit strategy. And those who can overcome self I'm going to this sort of partnership, they will know that they own a business with good exit strategy, with sound equity base, and they build an institution. So understanding what is within this political economy that I held in terms of putting the jigsaws together and creating a new base that will move the profession and the practice of our profession up is very important. A very key thing that ophthalmologists tend to run away from, not ophthalmologists alone, though, is the case of finance, which is benefit realization management. How do we share the benefits? If I do this and this, how do I get this? How am I not going to be cheated? Look, there's a change, a vehicle of transformational change that can be achieved if people should come together and lay things down as a business. And everything is seen within the system as a businessman, and everybody representing the business unit, so that whatever you do is quantified, and what you contribute to that group can be quantified, and therefore you can get, no matter how hard you work, you will get your compensation and remuneration. And you see those teams within that organization will also benefit, because many of you will create more wealth and you'll be able to utilize it, and your team will work harder in order to ensure that you achieve the goal. So looking at all this, we're getting to a level whereby we have no choice. That we need to build a viable, sustainable practice. We need to be dynamic. We need to be efficient and prepared to equip our facilities with high capacity utilization, high return on investment, good customer service, provision of quality eye care services for all. And all this will give us a solid, sound emotional intelligence and business management model that we leave after us, that we'll be able to leave a legacy to the future generation. So all the time, we should constantly asking ourselves, what is our exit strategy? What do we want to do? I always look at Professor Jeremy Thomas' statement of one man in our time. He said, a man is the product of his time and people he has obligation to serve. A man is the product of his time and people he has obligation to serve. And by serving them, exercising his talent and utilizing his training to the full, we can see that today in the country and in sub-Saharan Africa, there are such that one man may have to undertake more than one task. You can't just say, I'm an eye doctor, I'm a this. No. You have to be polyvalent. You have to undertake more than one task. As long as he is able to conscientiously give his best to all he can reasonably handle. It is not only desirable, but imperative that he fills these multiple roles. If we are unable to fill those multiple roles, we will not be able to maximize our potential. We have to learn on finance, we have to learn on economy, we have to be part of the whole thing, not just an eye doctor. Spend some of our time. Like you see more of our consultants and people now going online, doing MBA courses, doing a lot of courses online, research and all these things. Great. Knowledge is power. But that knowledge is of no use if we don't apply it to improve our environment. That is essential. It's for us to overcome that inertia and change, because the future is ours. If we can handle the political economy of all what affects the eye care and even eye care generally, and we're prepared to invest in the future of others, the younger generation, because health care do not belong to us alone. The patients are playing more roles, there are more litigations, there are more awareness. It's becoming a multi-stakeholder interest. And those interests include peer-to-peer, multidisciplinary, national, regional, and international collaborations. That is where the future is. And that's the only way we can make a lot of difference. And those of us who are leaders at this thing, and those who are emerging, and even for the younger ones, as we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Because how you will be relevant, the whole equation, depends on the younger generation that you've invested in your build. That's who you can call them. I look at myself today, where will I be if I don't have the younger generations that we are together in our practice, we share the same vision, and people approach me, I can say, go and meet so. Oh, this, so. It is so, how relevant we're going to be depends on those who are built. And it's very important that we start looking at that. We start looking at how that is required to put all these building blocks together and change the system. If you don't, time will force us to change it. When the time will come to force us, the younger ones, they'll be ruthless with us, and they, as you see now, a lot of them are leaving the country. They're finding it difficult to get residents. Even those residents that are finishing, they're leaving the country. Who are the people who will take care of you when you need that? Who are the people who will be there to take the mantle from you? Or university increasing retirement age to 70, maybe they will increase it to 80. What will we be able to do at that time? So, once again, when we've walked throughout our life, we struggle despite against the odds, and we cannot keep those that we invested in. We will be at a loss. And when you look within the political economy of healthcare, and I look at Ivory Coast, the French, once a professor retires in Ivory Coast or all these French companies, they retire to Paris. They make sure they take off all the top notch into their own system. And that's why eye care in French countries is not as developed as the English-speaking country. Because a part of the system, they've traumatized the psychic of making them to believe that they become French citizens, they end up there, they enjoy, and they are unable to invest in the younger ones. The younger ones have no role model. The same thing is happening to us now. UK opened their doors, Canada opened their doors. The best of our brains, the ones we are training, even we ourselves encourage them, even our own children. What will happen? If we are not careful, we will die as unsung heroes. Because those things people will invested all our strength, all our resources into are not there to look after us. So this thing is not just, the meaning is not just a simple one. It's something we have to holistically look at and see how we can change. Think. So in conclusion, I would like to share the quotes from two Nigerians. Great economies and great nations, prosperity and abundance of nations and communities are not created by men, are created by men and not spirits. I repeat, great economies and great nations, prosperity and abundance of nations and communities are created by men and not spirits. No matter how much you pray and fast, our country cannot grow without some of us deciding to do the hard work that makes nations work. That's Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the Vice President. He's a pastor. The second one is from Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and he said, after rain comes sunshine, after darkness comes the glorious dawn. There's no sorrow without its alloy of joy, and there's no joy without its admixture of sorrow. Behind the ugly, terrible mask of misfortune lies the beautiful, soothing countenance of prosperity. So tear the mask. The key there is to tear the mask. If we don't tear the mask, we will not be able to see the beautiful soothing of countenance of prosperity that is behind that ugly, terrible mask of misfortune. We at a level of lot of mask of misfortune in a profession, in a service provision, all surrounding us like a cloud, unless we tear the mask and regroup. Think outside the box. Look for the interest of all and see how we can create a sustainable eye care system of South Africa. If not, if we do not do that, I think we will have ourselves to blame. Thank you for giving me the time, and I really appreciate you listening to what I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for this insightful lecture. Please post your questions in the chat box so that we can answer, so that Dr. Hassan can answer your questions. Thank you very much. Well, let me open the floor with this. You've said a lot, sir, about not being a beggar organization, about investing in the youth. But looking down the road, 5, 10 years, where do you see ophthalmology in Nigeria? Will those in the diaspora come home and invest, set up units, set up clinics, or will there be no ophthalmologists? Because if everyone is moving out, if the junior ones are moving out, then what's the future like from your perspective?
Well, I will answer you one as an ophthalmologist with sentiments. The other, I will answer you as a businessman, economist without sentiments. If we want the ophthalmologists in diaspora that are successful to come home, we must provide the enable environment. We must have a good infrastructure built by us within, okay? And let them come and do their service without hassle. And if they find it okay, they can decide to stay. Or a very good old colleague of ours, who's like a father that has done that with Professor Liberty. He created the Lagoon Hospital with the high hopes of creating a platform for the ophthalmology, for all the surgeons and all this to come to Nigeria, to come and help, to do this. But they didn't share their vision. They were coming, but they were making their money and going back. At the end of the day, they have to give an exit, the interest of his investment. So if we want them to come, we have to provide a environment, because they will ask us, which of the hospital, what is this, what is available, are we safe, and all these things. So that's very important, being an ophthalmologist. In any situation, just as in COVID situation, that people were dying, things were terrible. Some people are making millions and millions and millions of naira. Some people have become billionaires because of COVID. So there's always opportunity in crisis. And Nigeria is very good in creating crisis and they're good at managing things in crisis in order to make money. What will happen is if these ophthalmologists don't have enough and the service is there, institutional investors will come in and they will build good hospitals, put their money, see those who are still around that are useful, train them, and bring those that are abroad to come back into to come, create a robust environment for them and say, and they make their money. They will make their money because then people have nowhere else to go but to them. They make a lot of money. And you can see it even this COVID period. A lot of hospitals, people cannot go overseas. They look for hospitals with facilities and they were able to get their treatment. But there are millions out there who are pauperized and cannot even reach a general hospital and they die. So that's the sad part of it. If you look in Lagos, look at Evercare Hospital. That's the latest hospital in town. Dr. Shonibare, I remember many years ago, and some of us and all these trying to get our institution going until Abraj went bankrupt and then the PTG and others took it over. And Dr. Shonibare was very resilient. If you enter that hospital, it's a first-class hospital with all the facilities, fantastic. But it was a turnkey project by investors. You enter, you see IFC, PGD, Probaco. There are more than 7 institutional investors who put the money together to create that institution. How many poor people will go there? It's the realm of the society, those who can afford to pay. The institutional investors are not interested in sentiments. So it's a business guy. They want their money. They put their money, they can get 5 times the quadruple. They will sell it to another institutional investor and move on. So that's how we become a pawn in the game. And the same thing will happen in eye care. If we don't have a quantum change in mindset to start laying a good foundation to prevent that. But to do that, we must have the patriotic spirit and determination to change things around. And if they see us doing that, they put the money where they see progress. At least they can still get a good return on investment. I hope that answers your question, Dr. Aaron.
Thank you very much, sir. Yes, it does. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, please? I can't see any questions here. Any further questions? Okay, if there are none, then I'd like to, okay, we've enjoyed the lecture, sir. No more questions. Okay, we have a question here. That's from Sam Elion. And he says, what is the first step to laying the foundation for the future? An actual practical step to start with. an actual practical step to start with? Thank you.
That's a very good question. I think the common umbrella for ophthalmologists in this country or in any sub-Saharan African country is their society. The Ophthalmological Society of Nigeria, the East African College of Ophthalmologists, the South Africans, all these are should be these center for ophthalmologists to come together. And also within that unit, I remember many years ago, we started the Young Ophthalmology Forum in order to prepare their mind and educate them and be by example for them to be able to take care of themselves and challenge the older ones with the problems, because the problem we face on our own time is different from the problem the younger generation is facing. So we felt as a forum for them to start laying foundation to take over from the old ones and also, think differently outside the box. So I think the most practical thing is to take this up at the national level and, devote a lot of time to doing a situational analysis and looking at the thinking of the younger ones and the older ones, sending the monkey surveys on specific questions, the need, the problems, whatever. You gather all these questions together, analyze it, then you can be able to see a pattern will evolve, which will reflect the thinking of the different groups. As the priority of different groups will vary, those who are close to their exit time, we probably have a different way of thinking than the ones that are next to them. And those who are in the teaching institutions and others and private sectors, if you bring them together holistically and let these questions in your situational analysis address specific problems, then you can create the blocks. And then you can now come together as a body in different units to find a solution to this. And I think we did that in one of our ophthalmological societies from when we had a joint with IAPB, ICO in some years ago. But we had a strategic plan, we did everything, but nothing came out of it. So if you can, at this one, identify leaders, transformational leaders, they don't have to be old ones. They get across and you start breaking the blocks and start asking, can you collaborate? What can we do? How can we create networks? And that's the way you start. You create a movement that is palpable and forceful and very strong, and you prepare to put your money into it and raise your voice. The greatest weakness of the system in Nigeria is the younger ones keep quiet. They know what is right, they can't say it. And they're afraid of the senior ones. At the end of the day, they become like the senior ones. You need to create a disruptive mechanism that will force everybody to start thinking positively. You need to have a high risk appetite among your younger generation to challenge the system in a but respectful way, in a way that you make the elderly ones know that you need them, but you have to map up your career and what you have to do. So if you can do that, that will build a sort of confidence within the younger generation and say, okay, maybe it's time for us, we can make a difference. Let's plan and execute our own and use the experience of others. This way, you take the ownership. Until you do that, you find it very difficult. There are quite a lot of, at least I know, of elderly ophthalmologists within and outside with enormous contacts, enormous influence. If they see a platform that presents itself as a vehicle for change, positive change, that is not selfish, that is selfless, forward-looking, and creates something new, I'm sure you get enormous support. That is what this profession is waiting for. That is what is waiting for. You have to think it out through yourself. You have to make up your mind that you believe in what you want to do, then other people will follow you. You can achieve whatever you set your mind on as long as you're ready to pay the price. And at the end of the day, there are those who have paid the price before you. You may not have been able to effect the change they wish they can, but they planted the seed in some of the younger generations, and some of them have achieved a lot. How beautiful it would be if it can be a collaborative effort, a focus for an organization that everybody can key into it. So look at your leadership, get a transformational leadership. In society, you can elect your leaders. But if you passively play politics that is unproductive, it's spread doom for the society, just as it is for the nation at the moment. That everybody's just after their own post. Nobody thinks about us, but we don't have to do. We can look at a profession and make a difference. That's my suggestion. And you can start it yourself. Everybody can start it.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. If we don't have any more questions, I'd like to thank you all. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time. Thank you for imparting knowledge. Thank you for encouraging us to make a difference, to invest in the younger ones, and knowing that we can do whatever we want to do. There's a future for ophthalmology in Nigeria. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We'll see you the first Saturday of August. And we look forward to another insightful lecture. Have a restful weekend, and God bless.
Thank you.